Hi, my darlings. I'm Sophie Darling, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're reacting to episode 15 of season 2 of Vinland Saga. And I'm not ready. I've kind of delayed watching this until I've watched everything else I needed to record today because I have a feeling this is going to be a very emotional one because the storm is coming and Arnheid is going to see Gardar. She is willing to risk everything to reunite with him, and I think we may lose Arnheid. I think it's going to be very emotional and distressing because she is willing to embrace the storm if it means having a chance of freedom, a chance to pursue a life elsewhere, and to be reunited with the man that she loves. But I'm just kind of not ready to face it, especially because we've had quite a few episodes now of Arnheid being fleshed out, more of her backstory, and now I think we're going to watch her die. And the whole reason they fleshed it out is so that it will be emotionally crushing and gut wrenching to us, because if they didn't flesh her out, we would just kind of be like, eh. But the show does a very good job of making us emotionally connect to characters in a very short span of time, only to then rip them away. So I am very concerned. I'm very worried. And I've already cried today because I watched Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and that was emotional. And now I'm embracing the fact that I most likely am going to cry at Vinland Saga. So I was kind of delaying it a little bit today. But without further ado, let's get into episode 15. I'm not ready for this, I don't think. Oh, the light is disappearing. The light that guided her is now gone for him. And it's called Storm because the storm is here. Oh, there's no escaping it now.
普段は警備のことなんざ俺ら任せのくせに賞金の馬3頭のことじゃないっすかね分け前よこせってのかごつくババアめ
He said usually the security's left to us, so what has she done? Because they're not on duty, they're not on guard, so now I'm scared that they're just going to be completely caught unprepared.
ダメだ
Snake, please. Have mercy.
知るかそんなもんなんで俺が手下の仇を解放しなきゃなんねんだよお前アルネーズをジジイの家に送り返してこい
Feel like they might have more empathy and allow her.
だよ歩いて送り返せってのかよ
お願いします。夫に会わせてください。誓って逃がそうなんて思っていません。
She just wants to see
傷の手当てを
him.
してあげたいだけなんです。
He's not going to be able to refuse. Look at that little blush on his face. He's like, I don't want to walk her back, and also she's very pretty.
ケイティルの旦那の可愛い子ちゃんじゃねえかあ、兄貴がこの女にガルザルの手当てを許可したんだよ本当だぞ
I hate that they refer to her as Kettle's precious girl, as if she's not a person. There is no home.
大丈夫だ縄を切るような道具は持ってね手当てなんて言わねえでもっといいことしてやれよ
Oh, you sick freak.
こんなに縛られていては手当てできません。今だけでも縄を。
そりゃ無理な相談だな何を縛っちゃいねえぜ
Oh, you're disgusting.
すまなかった
Oh, that means so much to her.
二度とそなたとヒャルティのそばを離れたりしない
He's probably lived with this guilt for so long.
私が間違っていた許してくれアルネイズ
He still doesn't know his son's gone, though. Oh.
辛い思いをさせたな。やり直そう。何もかも元通りにしよう。
It can never be like it was before.
私の戒めを解いてくれ。
She's suffered too much and you've suffered too much.
何を言う。許しを請うのは私の方だ。雨が強くなってきた。小屋で休むわ俺。
Oh, they're gonna leave them alone.
見張ってろって言われたろ。一人で十分だろが。
No, one man isn't enough.
責任持って見張れよな。俺様女に弱えのがたまに傷なんだよな。
He's gonna untie him, isn't he?
サービスは終わりだ。
Ooh. Like, I won't let another man touch her. Holy shit. His vocal cords are gone, so he can't even scream. That's gonna startle them out, isn't it?
アルレーズ、その男の腰にナイフがある。それで私の縄を切れ。早く、アルレーズ、しっかりしろ。
You're in the storm now.
縄を。二人とも殺されるぞ。アルレーズ。
They're gonna kill her, aren't they? She's just gonna let them kill her. No, did she do it? Oh no, she cut them free. She made her choice. Shit, he's killed them, and Floki and his men are coming.
俺があれほど油断すんなと。
Now there's like no one to defend the place.
先の方を見てください。血は雨で流されちまったけど、油がついて刺したんですよ、敵を。手負いの上に手負い。ここには馬もなかったはずだ。
So in his mind, he's like, they couldn't have gone far.
必ず農場の中で蹴りをつける。見つけ次第殺す。
And they're being drawn away further from where Floki and his men could land. So there's literally going to be no one to defend the farm.
平穏に暮らしてただけなのに、暴力に自由を奪われるなんて間違ってる。
And they can't even take it back. Can't do anything about it. He's not wrong. It is. It's cruel.
ずっと戦争ばかりしてきた人間だから何も言う資格はない。
He participated in so many people being taken as slaves
間違ってい
through
た。
raids. But he's atoning.
お前が戦士だったことは知らないと。
俺は彼女のような人にそれを知られるのが恐ろしい。どうしてあんなに人を傷つけて平気でいられたのか。
The thing is, you were, because you're haunted by it now. If you weren't bothered by the harm and hurt you've caused, you wouldn't be having nightmares about it.
この間お前が話してたあれ、本気なのか。
But at the time, he was so tunnel visioned that he did what he needed to do to survive.
前に言ってただろ。俺には夢みたいな話に。
And that's not me saying that he's not someone that deserves to be held accountable for what he did, but the difference is that when he's in that life, he's embraced that life, he's not thinking critically about it. He's lost in the moment. Everyone around him is committing acts of violence and war. Everyone around him is doing the exact same thing. He was very young when he entered into that life. he was doing the same thing because it became so normalized that he didn't think to question it, didn't think to reject that way of life. But now he's embraced a different perception. He's able to think more critically about it. Again, this isn't to say that he's not accountable for the harm that he's caused. He is 100% accountable. But the difference is that the reason he never really thought about it was because he never really had the space to do so. Because if everyone around him is doing it, he's been socialized into thinking that this is okay behavior, this is normal behavior. Therefore, he doesn't realize the harm and pain and suffering that he's causing on a mass scale. But if he truly wasn't burdened by it, if he truly didn't care, he wouldn't have the nightmares. He wouldn't berate himself. He wouldn't want to strive to be a better man if he wasn't emotionally impacted. So he's saying, I have no reason to say anything truly because I partook in that system of harming people and also aiding those stealing people away from their homes to sell and rip away their freedom through violence. But never really thought about it until later. But later meant he was older. He was no longer wrapped up in that lifestyle. He was able to think more in depth about what he had done and partook in a way that he couldn't have done when he was actively involved in it because he didn't have the space in order to reflect. He didn't have the distance in order to understand truly how his actions hurt other people. It's only through time, space, and distance that he's able to truly reflect back on it. And that is the catalyst for him becoming this better man through becoming a pacifist and choosing to be reborn. So I understand what he's saying in terms of like, it didn't impact me at the time. I don't know why I was so emotionless to it, but I don't think he was. He just didn't quite register it at the time because it was almost impossible for him to do so. But if he wasn't impacted by it, if he wasn't upset by it, he wouldn't have the nightmares. He wouldn't be traumatized.
どうすれば戦争と奴隷をなくすことができる？
俺には自分の経験したことしかわからないが、戦争が多くの奴隷を生むのは間違いない。
But how do you end war?
奴隷が生まれてしまうんだ。戦士と奴隷商人の境目は曖昧だ。戦争の数が減れば奴隷も減るだろう。
But how?
でもノルドの男は戦争が良くないことだとは思っていない。
That's the issue. It's so culturally ingrained. You have to overhaul the idea of what masculinity is in order to prevent war from happening. It needs to start with the fathers. The fathers need to teach their sons to be better. It's a generational thing. But that's because his father wasn't like that.
そんなに変なことなのか？
ノルドの社会では臆病者は生きていけない。これ以上彼らを背負うくらいなら仲間外れの方がずっとマシだ。俺が殺してしまった人たち。
He carries them with him always.
彼らの霊が毎晩のように現れて俺を責め苛むんだ。父を殺されあんなにも怒り恨んだお前がなぜ何人もの父や兄
And it didn't bring you any peace.
俺はこの人たちに償いをしなければいけない。この人たちが安らかに眠れるところへ連れて行ってあげなければもうこれ以上は無理だ。
He's already burdened.
一人だって背負えない。
The visuals in this series have been absolutely stunning.
これ以上殺したり壊したりしないってだけじゃ
He needs to bring about change. Atonement's not enough. He needs to put his thoughts into action. Like his father, place for outcasts, essentially.
けどバイキングはどんなところにもやってくる。
Mm.
平和や自由を
Foreshadowing.
戦わなきゃならない時もあるよ。
That's exactly what's going to happen here.
平和のために戦争してちゃ意味がない。そんなんじゃ、あの殺し合いの地獄からは抜け出せない。
But what do you do when the people you love and care about are threatened? That's the issue that it comes down to.
どこか地の果て、果ての果てにでも行かなきゃ。バイキングでさえ来れないよう
To
な、
finally have peace.
そんな仲間外れの人間の
Vinland. Vinland! Very few have made it there. Vinland.
海の彼方まで逃げ切ったら、そこには何があるのかしら。戦と奴隷商人がいるだけ。
He's remembering that conversation from series 1, where he comforted her with the idea of Vinland.
海の向こう、どんな権力も届かない。どんな奴隷
He's the one reciting it again now.
ずっと向こうの地。
あるのか、そんな土地が。
ある。忘れていた。
Now it's come back to him.
レイフという船乗りにその話を聞かせてもらったんだ。
The fact that he's remembering when Leif is on his way here is just so poetic.
ならそこへ行けば。
いや、恐ろしく遠いとも聞かされてたし。
But Leif does, and he's coming here. So maybe.
しかも国づくりだ。大勢の仲間外れを連れて行かなきゃならない。
But it's something. It's a goal. It's better than nothing.
そうか。
It's better than
でも
just having a dream that will never come to
やっ
fruition.
といい話を聞けたよ。
Oh, God. Oh, they think they're hiding them.
朝っぱらから。ったく、何なんだよ。
Was he hiding them?
え？
Oh, I thought maybe he'd hide.
俺たちの物置小屋をひっくり返す理由が他にあるか。
アルネイさん。
It looks like the storm is over, but it's not. It's just beginning. Storms are deceptive. And we know that this isn't the end of it. It's not the end. They're going to track down where they've got to, but the fact that Thorfinn is remembering Vinland, the opportunity and hope that it presents, it's better than just having this dream of erasing war and slavery with no sense of actual goal or purpose. And Vinland presents a goal and a purpose. It's something. It's ambitious, of course, but it is an opportunity to create a nation where war and violence isn't touched upon you, where people can live in harmony without the fear of a sword. But it is also a generational thing. Fathers need to teach their sons that violence isn't the means to masculinity, that it's not the be all and end all of your existence. And that's what Thors was trying to teach Thorfinn, but he was too young to understand it until now. But when fathers pass on this ideology, it becomes so rooted in their perception of who they are as a person and as a culture that they aspire to it. And that's how we end up with this incessant violence and conflicts being reiterated, because it's passed from father to son and on and on and on in this generational cycle. You have to break the cycle if you want true change to emerge. And that's what Thors was so desperately trying to do with Thorfinn. He was trying to break that cycle. He wanted his son to be better. He didn't want his son to be another Norse man consumed by violence, consumed by this perception that in order to be a man within this society, he needs to raid and take slaves and build his wealth and pillage and kill. Like, he didn't want that for Thorfinn. And Thorfinn is finally now beginning to understand why his father was so intent on drumming home the lessons to him that he doesn't have an enemy, that he doesn't need to pick up a sword, that this isn't something that he needs to participate in. But even Fours knew that there were times where you have to defend what you care about. You can't just wholly forsake violence. And Fours may have forsaken the taking of human life, but he didn't forsake violence. He defended himself and the people that he cared about through self-defense, through using his fists rather than a blade. But you could still argue that it is a form of violence in itself, because this is the thing that we keep coming back to, because that's what Aina was trying to stress, is how do we protect the people that we love and care about if we just completely forsake the use of violence? We just allow people to walk all over us, and therefore the people that we care about are harmed in the process. So how do we stop the people that we love from being violently assaulted, from being taken as slaves? How do we erase this if we just completely forsake the use of violence in all cases? And it's this dilemma that we keep coming up against. And that's why they come to this realization that so long as they're in a place where the Vikings can reach, there's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be violence. They need to run away from it altogether. They need to venture somewhere that the Vikings cannot stumble across them. But again, this is a very difficult task. And this idea of struggling against the use of violence, of not wanting to take a human life, is something we are going to see Thorfinn wrestle with, because it very much seems like foreshadowing for him being faced with a situation where he feels torn between using violence to help someone and not wanting to carry the burden of taking another life. He's very much saying, I can't add any more to this load that I'm already carrying. And it's all well and good that I'm saying that I'm reborn and I'm going to forsake violence, but I need to fully atone. I need to rebuild what I have destroyed. I need to create a place where people can be free and not have to pick up a sword, not having to use violence to defend themselves. I need to create a society in which people can be outcasted from the normality of Norse culture whilst not being condemned for it. Because as he's saying, to be a coward in Norse society is to be weak, is to not survive. And he would rather be an outcast and forsake violence than carry any more of the dead upon his shoulders. And his purpose now is to ensure that he creates a place where others who feel the same way can thrive. But it's interesting that him and Canute both have the same idea, the same perception of what they want the world to be: free of war, free of slavery. But Canute is actively profiting off of slavery because he's about to take this farmland. This farmland only functions insofar as it has slaves to run it. It's only profitable for that reason. But not just that, he's also actively contributing to bloodshed, to violence, in order to expand his power, expand his territories for utopian purposes. But it's not. It is the burden of the crown and greed and power, and he hides it behind this idea of, I'm creating a paradise, but he's not truly doing it. He's kind of lost sight of his true purpose, whereas Thorfinn has completely changed, and that Thorfinn is willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild, to find a place where he can lay the dead to rest, where he can fully feel like he has atoned for the mistakes that he has made, for the suffering that he has caused to others, that he can find a place to exist in peace. And in existing in peace, the dead that he carries with him can also rest easy, knowing that whilst their lives were stolen, the man that has done it has gone on to achieve great things and to prevent suffering from happening to others. That he's truly moved forward and atoned, that they can rest easy knowing that he didn't just throw their lives away as if it was worth nothing, as if it was so trivial an item that it could be discarded. But I can understand Aina's frustration and confusion, because he's like, well, at some point we are going to have to defend those that we love and care about. Because it is frustrating. It does feel like an impossible situation because so long as there is war and conflict and it threatens you and the people you love and care about, how are you supposed to forsake violence? How are you supposed to forsake it if it means putting those that you love and care about in harm's way? If you can't defend them, if you can't make a difference in protecting them. So you kind of end up in this cycle, but even Thorfinn's like, but if we continue to think like that, nothing's going to change. We have to be the change we want to see in the world, and we need to be better rather than resorting to using violence as an excuse in that we are protecting what we love and care about. Because you can protect those you love and care about without taking a human life, because again, violence doesn't necessarily mean killing, because Thors did use violence, but it was for self preservation. It was for protecting those around him that would die if he didn't. And he didn't kill anyone because he didn't want to, but he still did what was necessary to ensure that their lives were saved. So that's kind of the difference, in that there are ways to defend and protect without the use of harming others in the process. And by harming, I mean killing or maiming. But it's kind of something that Thorfinn hasn't really come to the understanding of or the realization of just yet, because in his mind, violence automatically means killing, automatically means death, because that's what he's used to. But I think once he begins to realize that his father still used violence, but for different means, he might start to understand that sometimes it's necessary. I don't know, maybe, but I feel like I'm kind of with Aina. It feels almost an impossible task to just completely reject the concept of violence altogether, because I know, quite frankly, like I would do anything to protect the people I love and care about. So this idea that I wouldn't do anything kind of doesn't sit right with me, but I can also understand it from Thorfinn's perspective. I love that the show kind of makes you wrestle with both sides. You're kind of arguing against yourself because, again, it does almost seem like an idealistic dream that will never come to fruition, but you want it to come to fruition. But so long as violence and war is accepted within society, you're always going to be confronted with it, and you're always going to be forced to either accept it or reject it. And Thorfinn's philosophy is rejection, because he doesn't want to be subsumed into that. He doesn't want this to be normalized and seen as the only way of being a man in Norse society or in society in general. And the only way that he can live with himself and move forward is just a complete rejection of violence altogether. Whereas Aina's like, but I want to protect those I love and care about. So how am I expected to not use violence? And that's when they sort of come to that understanding that they need to go to Vinland. They need to get away from here altogether, because that's the only way that they can find a peaceful society, is informing it themselves far away. But I'm so worried for Arnheid. I am glad that Gardar apologized to her, that he was accepting responsibility for what happened, but it's the fact that he still doesn't know his son is gone, and she doesn't quite have the heart to tell him that his son isn't here. He's got another wound, so she did cut him free. I was a bit worried because she was kind of rooted in spot, as if she didn't know what to do. She was being torn between not getting involved or risking everything to leave with Gardar, and she eventually made the decision to free him and to run away with him. So now they are on the run, which makes me think that they're eventually going to track them down and find them, especially because Gardar has another wound. But now that Aina and Thorfinn know that Arnheid is gone and Gardar has escaped, I think they're going to put two and two together. And I think Aina's going to really struggle to not go to her, to not want to help them both. But it's just the tears that she's shedding and that emotional distraughtness, because he's begging for forgiveness, taking responsibility for her situation as well as his own, that he was wrong, that he just wants to go back to the life that they had. But she also knows that that life is never going to happen again because of all the trauma that they both have been through. And this isn't the man that she recognizes, especially when she sees him ripping out the vocal cords This isn't the same man that she married. This isn't the jovial Gardar that doted on their son and loved her. This is someone that's been hardened by the cruelty that he's endured. And she still makes the choice to go with him because that's still her husband, that's still the man that she loves, and she's already walked in the eye of the storm to get here, and now she's in the middle of it. She's not about to turn her back on him, but you can see that moment of realization, like, this isn't the man that I married, and I don't quite recognize him, but I think her love for him is still there enough that she's willing to risk it all to run with him, to at least try and gain her freedom. She doesn't want to be a slave. And it kind of ties back to what Thorfinn said to that slave girl, who again we saw in this episode, where she's talking about how across the sea there would still be slavery and war and violence, and there's nothing to aspire and hope for. And Thorfinn comforts her with the idea of Vinland. But in that same episode, he was talking to her about how it's better to run away. It's better to be free than to be a slave. It's better to risk the idea of being captured and the consequences of it than to remain the object of someone else. And Arnheid has come to that same realization. She doesn't want to be Kettle's precious girl anymore. She wants her freedom. She wants to escape from here. She wants an opportunity to make her own decisions. And this is the decision that she's made. Probably the first decision that she's been able to make in years, and that's to free her husband and to take this chance. I just don't think it's going to work out the way that we want it to, but I love that we see the storm dying down, the storm ramping up to her making that decision to free Gardar, and the rain pelting down and the darkness, and then it begins to simmer when Aina is on the edge of the barn, sort of looking out. Neither of them can sleep. The storm has come to an end because it's reached its conclusion, but I think this is deceptive because we still haven't seen Floki and the Vikings, and Leif also hasn't arrived yet. But yeah, I'm very tense, especially because Snake is furious. Most of his men have been killed. He is out to get Gardar, but also we now have very few people left that can defend the farm, which isn't ideal. It's not great. So that's just leaving them all the more vulnerable, but they are on a mission to find Gardar, and they're on a mission to find Arnheid, and I feel like it's just not going to be ideal. But I think if Thorfinn and Aina come across them, I think they will try and help them escape. They will empathize with them enough that they'll want to see them succeed. They won't use violence, but they will help them run, help them escape, because they don't want anyone to be enslaved. They don't want anyone to have their freedom stolen from them. And this is part of that process of ensuring that no one has to have their freedom forcibly taken from them. I think that's all I want to say for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this react, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment below to help boost this video into the algorithm. Until next episode, bye!